So I'll quickly just tell you the agenda I had for this meeting, and my hope is that we can be off by 5:45. That's my intention, is to get us there. And so I was going to quickly just talk about the intention behind the project. Clyde already spoke about this some. Just want to add another bit of that. And Clyde's going to talk some about the vision, kind of the logistics that we see for this project. Then we'll give you an update on fundraising and talk about next steps and take any questions. But also, if you have any questions as we go along, feel free to, I think there's like a raise hand thing, or just shout out, and we'll stop too. There's not many people on the call. So the intention, for me, this step is this project is a first step in trying to be a better regenerative, and I'm reading off of my notes up here in case you're wondering why I'm looking above here, be a better regenerative steward of my community and the land on which I live. What I mean by regenerative steward is I've had the pleasure of working with one of my clients is this woman. Her name is Janine Benyus, and she's the godmother of what's called biomimicry. And there's a core principle of biomimicry, which says that life creates conditions that are conducive to more life. That's like the core principle of life on this planet. And I believe that by working in alignment with that principle, I can help to optimize the land that I live on and the communities I live on by aligning myself with what is the regenerative capacities of the place where I live, and the people and the animals and the plants around me. And I think if I do that, it's a way that I can help to unite the neighbors around me in a way that makes everybody feel good and safe, and also the bioregion in which we live. And that's something I'm starting to learn more about, the idea of thinking bioregionally, and our bioregion would be the Southeast. I think it's been called the Dixon bioregion. And part of what I'm aiming to do is on this regenerators.earth website, where I'm carrying some of the, oops, Philip must have got bumped out. I'll let him back in. This regenerators.earth website, where I'm going to report about this project and other things. It's just trying to write about some of this, what I'm learning, what I'm actively trying to make happen, what I'm observing happening out in the world that I feel like is in line with this. And so that's what's going to be going up onto that site, as well as trying to share resources such as the notes and stuff that we have, and the way we run this project, just by reporting on it, so that if other neighborhoods in Athens are interested in doing it in the future, hey, here's the blueprint kind of thing. So yeah, that's my intention, and I'll ask Clyde to take over, on vision, or share anything else that maybe feels more like intention to you, Clyde.
Yeah, thank you, Bart, and sorry that I jumped in a little bit earlier during the introductions. But yeah, I think that this project for both Bart and I we're hoping to be one of the first steps towards a greater impact in our community in terms of how we use land, interact with land, grow food, and I think that it's for me, there's a great sense of like food security, and also just community building with all of this stuff that may come out of this in terms of the specifics of just this kind of tangible blueberry project. I already spoke to I think part of my original vision was just imagining children walking down the street and like during blueberry season being able to pick blueberries anywhere and everywhere they went. And I'll give another image that really kind of inspired this original vision, which was that of the pecan trees, which are all around Athens. And I see a lot of people during pecan season going around with buckets and whatever container and harvesting. And it just was apparent to me, like, maybe nobody ever even planted those trees. Maybe some of those trees were planted intentionally, but there they are, living their lives, doing their thing all day, every day, all year long. And once a year, they provide just a tremendous amount of calories, and like good fats, good proteins that are free for anybody to take. And that just seemed like a really beautiful thing to me. So with this blueberry project, Bart and I wanted to work in our two respective neighborhoods. Again, part of that was to make it feasible to happen, be kind of geographically specific, and also, be impactful directly enough on us to motivate us to get things going. At least I can say that that's true for me. So, kind of in an ideal situation, we would have, kind of yards spread out throughout each neighborhood, rather than necessarily clustered all in one spot. But, to some degree, we're just going to go with whatever we got. So again, that's kind of an ideal situation, was that we would have kind of equally dispersed properties all over the neighborhoods, so that it's available to everybody, not just at one corner of the neighborhood. We set a pretty low, I want to think of it now as a low goal. We set what we thought was a pretty modest goal to, be able to find, I think we said, about 5 yards, each one that could host, about 5 plants. In my professional career of doing a lot of edible landscaping, I've found that somewhere between 4 and 6 blueberry bushes is what like a single family wants, to meet a lot of their desires for blueberries. So, obviously, if we're planting for a community, we would like to have a lot more than that. And maybe one day we'll get there. Maybe next year we'll get there. But blueberries do require another variety for pollination in order to set fruit. So, we kind of, in each yard, we kind of need a minimum of 2 plants. And in general, just like the more varieties you have around and the more plants you have around, you tend to just get better fruit sets. So, 2 is kind of the minimum. And, I think we could, if somebody's got a huge yard and they want to host 20 blueberry plants, I think that would be amazing. So we went through and did, kind of as we were assessing the project, what are the materials that we're going to need? What are the costs that are going to be involved? And I drew upon my experience to, for all of that, including like, well, what are kind of ideal situations to be planting these in? I have found that blueberries in particular, along with a few other acid-loving plants like camellias and azaleas, really like, I generally don't like to plant anything without a soil test, but I'll almost never plant one of those without a soil test, because they have some pretty specific requirements in terms of the pH level. They like an acidic soil that we don't necessarily have. So we factored in a soil test, and then having some compost to apply to the planting area, and then mulching, which is really important for, I guess I'll speak briefly about all of those things. The compost is great, obviously, for nutrients, but also introduces a lot of microbial life to create a diverse soil ecosystem for the plant to, be able to manage fertility better than if we're having to, consistently apply like synthetic fertilizers that would have to be applied consistently and regularly. And then a mulch would be really important for protecting that soil ecology from UV radiation, from temperature fluctuations, hot and cold, and moisture fluctuations, which also means it's going to just be holding moisture in for the root system. And then beyond that, the big one, which I heard several people mention already, was deer. So Bart and I puzzled over this quite a bit in terms of how we were going to manage it, and we settled on individual cages for each plant. And one thing that I think that has a lot of advantages, including the fact that maybe on planting day we have a couple people just making cages, doing it repetitively and making however many cages we need, and then they're portable enough that we can move them around, put them on a plant. You can take them off when you need to tend them. And typically, I found that deer-resistant plants, here I'm going to do this so you can see it, deer-resistant plants if they have a year to get established, then they actually become resistant. And there's no absolutely determining the behavior of a deer, and a deer will do what a deer wants to do. And depending on the population density and the pressures for food in other ways, or just their whim, they may decide that they like one thing versus another thing. But typically deer do not like blueberries. And but deer browse, they'll try anything and everything that's new in their environment. So if we can generally get a deer resistant plant established and have at least a year to grow and get set in the soil and have, get established, then when the deer comes around and nibbles on it and tastes it and is like, well, maybe I'll try that again. No, I don't really like that. And they move on. And considering that there may be 10 or 15 or 20 deer that come by to nibble, we really want to have the plant established before that happens. And if it's a new plant going in, then it's just going to get hammered and it typically doesn't do well. But if it's got at least 1 year, then like I said, it usually does well. And then another thing that we often do is we'll spray a deterrent in the spring when it's putting on its fresh growth, because that's when it's the most tender. That obviously requires a consistent approach where you're out there every couple of weeks doing it, which is not as low management as we're hoping for, because that would be a weak link in terms of success potentially. Another thing that we're looking for in terms of sites is obviously needs to have sunlight. Access to irrigation is important. On most residential properties, a hose is not too far away. And we budgeted for this too, if people want them in their yards, which I would generally encourage, is that we can set up a simple drip irrigation system to it that would end up being pretty local. Like, let's say your house is over here and your blueberries are over here. We set up a drip irrigation system that just terminates with a hose end that you can then drag from your spigot, your hose, and hook it up right then, turn on your irrigation and run it for 15-20 minutes, but not have to stand out there with the hose. So it'll be more efficient use of water, and also hopefully a more efficient use of people's time. And you can leave the hose hooked up all season if you want, pull it out if you want. The other thing about kind of site assessment is that we're really hoping, in my mind, and I think in Bart's too, that all of the sites for this they have to be accessible to the community. So there may be some exceptions as to what this would look like, but in general, I'm thinking like it's by the road. You may have a sunny area, you may have a lot of sun in your backyard, but you may not want people wandering into your backyard to pick blueberries. So if that's the case, then your yard might not be a good fit for this. But if we have some sunny areas near a street where it would be less intrusive for community members to step onto that private property and harvest blueberries, and also tending them, throughout the years as that goes. So those are the main things we're looking for with sites: is sun, access for community, and then I feel like the irrigation is probably less of an issue, but maybe something that we come up against in particular sites. And then the maintenance going forward, one of the reasons why we chose blueberries was because it is a low maintenance crop, especially compared to like a vegetable garden or a fruit tree that requires a lot of pruning. Blueberries can definitely benefit from some pruning, but it's not really required. They need to be kept watered and kept the weeds away, and that's basically it. And I know that Bart has a little bit more of a vision for what that might look like for the communities going forward. I'm going to relocate because my kids are coming out and there's about to be some noise. Give me just 1 second. Thank you, Roscoe.
Glad I can jump in there for a minute since you mentioned.
Yeah, please do.
So
Thank you.
I've been in communication with um, numerous families around the neighborhood who have young children, and also we have a Boy Scout troop that's kind of based in Forest Heights, and numerous other folks with teenagers and younger kids. And I would love to get them involved in helping to plant, and also do some of that, just be aware of the maintenance and some of that stuff, so that they can help kind of keep an eye on them and feel some ownership over these plants. That would feel really good to me. So that's part of my thought around that.
And that's definitely something that I want to help pass on some knowledge about to any young people, especially, you know, when it comes down to like if they're going to have the interest and the time to do the pruning, and that can improve fruit production for sure. Bart, I see on our agenda that you've got it kind of under next steps, like installation day. So you wanting to talk about like the actual process of installation later in the meeting?
Let's, I mean, I think it's enough to maybe quickly just say that we're hoping to do the site assessment. So we're doing fundraising through the end of this month. Then we're going to look to do site assessments in December and plant in early January, and we'll just be in communication. And I think this actually segues really nice to kind of an update on how many volunteers we already have, so people get a sense of how many people have, you know, said, you know, we've got yards and labor and money and those types of things. Do you want to give that update, Clyde, or you want me to jump in and tell what I know?
Well, I've only got the numbers on the funds, so let me do that, and then if you could talk about the volunteers and the yards.
Sure.
So Bart has been doing more awareness raising in his neighborhood than I have, and also distributed flyers the week before I did. And Forest Heights has $620. I'm sorry. Forest Heights has $570 in contributions so far, and Newtown only has $50. That's only been one donation that came in. Both neighborhoods have a few people from the volunteer thing on the website who have said that they will contribute, but those are, you know, kind of pending funds at this point. So 570 committed for Forest Heights, that money that I've actually received, and 50 for Newtown.
Yeah, and I actually got a check in the mailbox today, so we're actually right on the edge of 600 in Forest Heights. And then I'm going to send just reminder emails to people who signed up and said that they're intending to make a contribution. I'll just send reminders to them this week that we're hoping to get them by the end of month. Oh, sorry, Lisa, did you want to? Oh. And then as far as volunteers, we had 30 plus people volunteer their yards in Forest Heights, which was awesome. I'm so excited about that. So we got lots of, you know, lots of potential sites, and I'm hoping to just get a sense of, you know, where we can spread them out around the neighborhood so they're available to people in different areas. That's definitely a high priority there. And then, you know, sun and those types of things. And we'll ultimately look and see how many, you know, bushes we're able to purchase and to spread around. We also had a person who had 200 feet of wire fencing here in Forest Heights. They offered as a in-kind donation. I need to show that to Clyde and look at it together. I haven't, you know, up close to see whether or not we think it'll work, but if so, that's quite a boon as well. But yeah, lots of people who have also volunteered to help on planting day. So we'll just, you know, work to coordinate that, and probably, you know, once we have the locations picked, we'll be, you know, say, hey, show up at your location, and then we'll, you know, my goal would be for everybody, nobody has to plant a blueberry to participate, but everybody who wants to help, you know, plant a bush, I would love to see that happen. So that's kind of my goal when it comes to that. But we're off to a good start on fundraising. We've got another week and a half to go. And yeah, I think it'll be fine however much we raise, I believe. Clyde, do you have anything else on that, or should we talk about next steps? And also, if anybody has any questions, shout them out, or whatever it may be.
I have a question about the site assessment piece. Are y'all doing, is it just your relying on people to say, hey, you can use my yard? Or will there be any point when like your expert eyes are going, oh my gosh, we haven't heard from them, but that yard would be perfect, and that you would like make an intentional ask?
Yeah. So as far as Forest Heights is concerned, I walk around the neighborhood all the time. And there are definitely some spots I'm like, oh, that's a beautiful spot right there, especially a couple along the sidewalk up towards the front of Forest Heights and one deeper in. Yeah, ultimately, we'll look and see what we have. But I might, also extend and ask. And I might ask people I know, that anybody know who lives here? So, yeah.
But yes, we will put our eyes on the sites. So Bart's taken in information about who is interested in hosting. And at some point, I think we said in December, we're going to schedule, and this kind of gets down to just the scheduling in general. We're trying to make this, as I said from the beginning, like feasible for ourselves. So, I would personally love to assess all of the sites. It may come down to Bart does all the assessments in Forest Heights and I do all the ones in Newtown. But just like kind of scheduling a day where we would all, where Bart and I would just walk through the neighborhood and look at all the places that people have said that they'd be willing to host.
Mine is kind of shaded because there's a lot of trees around. But I just wanted you to know that I walked this morning and there are chickens down the road. That's the first time I've heard them. They're black chickens, and somebody has this wire building that is a chicken coop.
Yeah, I have chickens as well. I had chickens until they all got killed in the last few months, but we've had 2 different flocks of chickens, and the pressures have been intense. I think we've had 3 different. I think we've had kills by hawks, kills by raccoons, and kills by coyotes or foxes.
Well, you should see this chicken coop. It's actually a metal wire building with a top and side. So nice. I don't think anything will get in there. These are people on Rivermont, where I live, and they have a couple of kids and do all kinds of interesting things.
Yeah, I have an enclosed coop, but we let them free range in a slick part of the yard during the day, and that's when the hawks have gotten them. Philip had a question here. He asked, is there a general fundraising ideal goal, or is the idea to just work with what comes in? And yeah, our idea has been to work with what comes in. And on top of that, I mean, if we can kind of streamline the project and get some comfort with it, then we could potentially run it again next fall, and then the fall after that, and maybe we could introduce fig trees or something like that. So I think the idea is, if we can get the ball rolling this year, and then if people are happy with it and it seems like a good piece of culture for our communities, then maybe it'll pick up some steam, and we'll maybe have more funds to work with the next year and more yards and so forth. Carol, we can take care of that for sure.
And yes, that is the idea, is that we'll work with what we got, and we're just trying to get some things rolling. And just to kind of put a number out there, like, we have a budget of $25 per plant, and that includes the compost, the cage, the mulch, potentially the irrigation, soil test, and the plant itself, which I don't know if how many people are familiar with shopping at like a garden center, but we'll be getting 3-gallon, hopefully. I'm pretty sure the vendor that I'm hoping to get from, which I feel pretty confident in, there'll be 3-gallon plants. So they'll be, once they're planted, they'll be probably 3-4 feet tall, well established. Purchasing that in a retail center would be over at least $25, if not 30 or 35. So, we're trying to keep so much of this, the way that we've designed it is to try to keep the costs and the effort down. So, I'll be using my professional license and wholesale discount to get plants from a local vendor that I know that I've been buying blueberries from a long time, as well as get discounts on the compost and the mulch, and we'll get them delivered in bulk. And so the number that I wanted to throw out is that if we planted 20 blueberry bushes in each neighborhood, that would be $500. So that's kind of like, I would say that my goal that would feel awesome was if we got 20 blueberries in. So $500 per neighborhood would be kind of a goal. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, and I'll mention too that we intend to keep the funds separate for the two neighborhoods. So the Forest Heights folks are purchasing the plants for their neighborhood. Newtown people are purchasing the plants for their neighborhood. With that said, we're talking about some ways to try to boost awareness and contributions in Newtown. Newtown also has 130 houses versus the 500 houses that we have in nearly 500 houses in Forest Heights. So that's kind of where we're at with that. So we're getting right up on 5:45, which is where I hope to let you all go. So I'll do a quick wrap up on next steps and open it up for questions really fast, and anybody can jump off who needs to. I wanted to quickly ask permission. So tomorrow I'm going to write an update and put it on regenerators.earth about, hey, here's what we talked about. Here's the link to the meeting. And I would like to ask permission of you all to say who was here and encourage neighbors to reach out and talk to you about what you learned here about it, just to try to stir conversations, stir meeting people, that kind of thing. If you would maybe if you go, just give me a thumbs up or something if you're okay with that. I see, I see Clyde, yes. Carol, yes. Amy, yes. Dave, are you okay with that?
I don't know how to do the little thing, but sure.
Oh, no, yeah, that works great. I see Lisa's got a thumbs up. Got a thumbs up from Lydia and Matt and Bishop. I saw your thumbs up. Joe, are you cool with that? Joe might be doing, oh, I see a thumb. All right, awesome, thank you. Then the next steps is, we're just gonna encourage fundraising through November 30th. We'll do the site assessments in December. I said that. We'll purchase plants, materials, all that stuff, and then communicate out about installation days. We'll probably do separate days in the different neighborhoods. Any questions? Thanks again so much for being here, everybody, and really great to meet everybody. Any questions? Shout them out or type them in.
I think it's a great idea. Thanks for taking the lead.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really like community idea projects and stuff.
Me too.
Thank y'all for taking an idea and a vision and turning it into action and letting us be a part of it. It's awesome.
Thanks for being here.
I love that idea, and I can see this maybe going towards public schools in the future. That would really help those communities, and then you have a workforce. I used to run the gardens at my school. There's a lot of space, so that could be but I like the idea of it being in the neighborhoods first, and then.
Yeah, I'd love to see some culture built around it. All right, Clyde, do you want to say anything to wrap up?
I really appreciate you all coming. It was wonderful to hear your blessings on us for the vision and the actions that we're taking. And I want to reflect those back to you, because they would go nowhere without y'all. So thank you for your interest and for showing up and for helping drive forward a project to bring community and food and tastiness and just goodness to the world. Thank you.
Right on. Good night, y'all. We'll be in touch.
Bye.
Bye.